Hi, I'm Conor Kelly O'Brien. I'm an actor, writer, and the co-founder and executive director of the Scranton Fringe Festival. I'm having a conversation today with a good friend and our fellow artist, musician, and songwriter, Ed Cuozzo. Hi, Ed.
Hello, Conor. How are you?
I'm going to be honest with you. I find this moment of all the conversations I've been having with people the most uncomfortable.
It is.
Because we're creating the facade that we haven't been sitting here for 20, 30 minutes getting ready.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's definitely awkward at first.
Okay, good. Well, as long as we're on the same page.
Yep.
So, Ed, I've known you for many, many years.
Yes.
Going on 10?
Maybe longer.
11? Yeah. You have been with a number of bands from Northeast Pennsylvania, and you now have completed, was it your third U.S. tour? Fourth tour around the U.S.?
It was our first major
first major tour, but in other bands you.
In other bands, I mean, we always did DIY tours and stuff. This was just the first one where it was like there was actual backing behind it.
Fabulous, and that was with your group University Drive.
Yes, yes.
But we'll get back to that in a second. So University Drive is your current focus and priority. You also have been the head of, or at least performed within a Social State, Melded, A Fire with Friends, Black Hole Heart.
Yep.
You also regularly perform with No Memories, which was once upon a time a Weezer cover band, but is now a Foo Fighters band.
We've made the transition.
Why?
I don't know. No, it got the Weezer thing. People were just, in the very beginning, it was super exciting. People loved it. And then over the course of 2 years, you just watched it die a slow death. So we had to switch over to something. So we switched over to the Foo Fighters.
Do you attribute that to a lack of interest in Weezer, or just?
I just think killing your market. You know, like we just made sure that we were playing all the time, and in the beginning it was awesome, and then we just literally watched it go from sold out shows and lines down the block to 7 people staring at their wings like, why are these guys here? You know? So now we're trying the Foo Fighters thing for a little bit.
Have you been performing yet with it?
Yeah, we did like 2 or 3 shows so far.
Great.
So it's good. It seems to be having the same effect. So
you've also performed with a cover band, Dance Hall Devils.
Yeah.
Am I right to understand that you guys do a variety of material?
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
Is there anything you'd like to say to Weezer if they could possibly see this interview?
You guys, you're cool guys. You guys are some cool guys.
Do you think you owe them an apology?
Oh, many apologies. Sorry, we had to do that.
I'm kidding. I'm making it charming for the public. Fascinating. So those are your other projects, but going back to you, well, let's go back even further.
Yeah.
Where did Ed Cuozzo first pick up a guitar?
Well, the very first time I picked up a guitar, I was living in Dunmore, oddly enough, and it was I was at my grandparents' house, and I got a guitar for Christmas, I believe, and I got guitar lessons from a dude who lived next door who just played an acoustic guitar.
That sounds
safe, super safe, right? Yeah, I took lessons from him for like, I don't know, like 2 weeks, and then that ended, and then I lost interest, and then years later I ended up going and getting lessons with Conway down at Gallucci Music. Remember Gallucci Music? And I was there for maybe a month or 2. Then I completely lost interest for years, and then got reintroduced to music through Nirvana, and then I just kind of taught myself how to play. So, but it all kind of started in Dunmore, and then I ended up moving up to Scott Township, and that's where I really kind of got into it. So,
what was your first, would you say, real band?
Real band was Melded.
Yeah.
Yeah, no question.
I've never really got to see Melded play, with the exception of maybe like 1 or 2 special like reunion sets. But everyone I know in our certain circle of the local music scene just adored it. What do you, without tooting your own horn too much, what do you attribute that to?
I think it's a mixture of things. I think there's, I think a lot of it has to do with nostalgia. You know, I think we were a really tight, like young, tight band, you know. For being 15, 16-year-old kids, I think we played really well. I always felt bad because I felt like the band played really well, but I wasn't ready with songs. Like I was a 15-year-old kid, like didn't know how to write lyrics, didn't know how to write melodies. So I was just kind of faking it, but I had this really good band. They could have been playing with anybody. But I think people really enjoyed, like we were young silly kids, and we had a ton of energy, and And for a lot of people, I think it was one of their first experiences seeing like a band, you know. So,
Without leading you too much, would you say that it's kind of summarizing what you said? There was also a power in, to use the term you used earlier, the do-it-yourself, the DIY.
oh, definitely.
That you did it.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
made it happen. It wasn't like your mom. Well, I mean,
Yeah,
I do assume
yeah.
parents helped a bit.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
But it wasn't, you know, it was something that you made. You made your own community.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really.
I mean, actually, the first show we ever played ever was in my basement in Scott Township, where my stepfather built us a stage. Not like we weren't like some rich, like none of us had any money.
Right.
Like it was just, he's like, I got this wood from a job. I'll build a stage if you want. Okay, build the stage, and we just had like a party. And for a lot of people, it was their first experience being at a show. And I just got some video of it from a friend, and it was like mind blowing to see.
So you would say, in essence, your first venue was a garage.
Yeah,
as many.
literally.
I think that we sometimes forget. We talk about music scenes, and we talk about the social element, and we talk about the the career development and the music and artistry itself. But it really is, at its core, I mean, it was community for a lot of people. It was what you did, and it was also, even if the kids that had no interest in pursuing music full time, it was their gateway into something else. And I will also say that, at least in Scranton and Northeast Pennsylvania's music scene growing up, well, yes, there was a core demographic.
Yeah.
There was a really wide range of the types of kids that showed
sure,
up to.
for sure.
I'm gonna break the fourth wall for a minute.
Okay, break it.
I didn't turn off my phone. I did not turn off my phone. My editors,
the
the editors are
heck,
gonna kill me.
Conor?
We're not calling it. We're still filming. Ed, do you want to talk about a little bit about while I struggled to turn off my phone?
Sure.
What were some of the venues you played back in the day?
Venues I played, I think I played at the Staircase Lounge. I definitely was there. I went and saw a lot of shows at the Staircase Lounge. Saw a ton of shows at Cafe Metro. Played a lot of Cafe. That was a big deal when we were younger. And
I
we
loved
were like,
Cafe Metro. For those that don't know, Cafe Metropolis was a very popular music venue in Wilkes-Barre that not only did it have so many amazing acts come through the venue, but it was also kind of the home base for some big names, such as Ed's own bands, but also like the Men Singers, Tiger's Jaw, Title Fight.
huge bands. I
Huge.
mean, yeah, the Coheed and Cambria played there. Wow. Jimmy Eat World played there. Like the amount of enormous bands that played that tiny
Can you
stage.
remember a certain particular band that you saw there that was like probably your favorite moment there?
Yeah, it was kind of like the pivotal moment there was when I saw the River City Rebels. And that wasn't like, they had a big following like in the
them.
underground punk rock scene, but there was some, I didn't even know what I was getting myself into. And Brian, the drummer of Meld It, was like, we're going to go see River City Rebels. I was like, who the hell are these guys?
Pretty sure they played the Vintage. I don't want to say that officially, but I'm pretty sure we had them through.
You probably did. You probably had the singer and the guitar player.
Yeah.
Yeah, come through. But I remember seeing them and like my mind like being blown
Why?
away. It was just everything that, like, it wasn't anything that I was expecting. Like, I thought going to see a rock show is, at that point, because I was still so young, it was like, you know, huge stage and pyro and lights and this and that. And then I kind of got like my 101 in punk rock in that moment, because there's just 200 kids squeezed in the small space that is Cafe Metro, up against the stage, and this band, like the sound equipment's okay, it wasn't anything to write home about. Trumpet players leaning the trumpet into the crowd, and just felt like a wave was hitting you, and it wasn't like they even cared. They were just, it was unbelievable though.
Did you mosh pit? Was there a mosh pit that night?
Yeah, totally. It was a lot of skanking.
I was quite possibly, if you can imagine, the nerdiest 12, 13-year-old, maybe like 13, 14-year-old, and then go find his least popular friend.
Okay.
That was me. And I got along with everybody, but I was a huge theater nerd kid.
Right.
I remember Dylan Lockney and a few people dragging me to Cafe Metro for my first time, and I was dreading it.
Yeah.
Because I was just the
Yeah.
And I remember being there and being in my first mosh pit. And I'm under no circumstance am I going to pretend like I was part of the scene.
No.
But even my few limited experiences, I just fell in love with it.
Yeah.
It was thrilling and it was fun and you felt in control. And I think that's a big part of it. I dearly miss Cafe Metro.
Yeah.
So an obvious chapter in both our lives that would be silly not to discuss. Speaking of venues, is a space that I used to run with Teresa O'Connor in downtown Scranton, multiple locations, primarily two, was the Vintage. The Vintage Theater, but commonly known as the Vintage. And we were a coffee shop, music venue, art gallery, poetry space, theater, everything you can imagine. I will say you are, without a doubt, one of like, and this isn't even favoritism, just commonality. You were there, of musicians, you probably played it almost more than anyone.
Probably.
If not the most.
Probably.
Like, if we like had a statistic.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Vintage. Ran from 2009 to 2014, and while I don't miss the hassle and the work that it created, I do miss the moments.
Sure,
of it.
I think everybody does.
We were on Penn Avenue in downtown Scranton and the Manhattan Room on Spruce Street. Tell me a little bit about what the Vintage meant to you. And this is so weird for me to ask.
No, it's. I mean, I remember the first time going into the Vintage on Penn, and it wasn't even like ready yet. Like you guys were like hanging lights and stuff. I remember like you on a ladder or something, and I just fell in love with it. I fell in love because it reminded me a lot of the same idea as Cafe Metropolis, but it just was its own thing, and. I don't know. It was just a place where people could be honest and creative, and I put the blame on any good things I do today primarily at that with the Vintage and the Keys. Like, and I truly, that's not just me saying that. I tell everybody that because it was like an open forum. You know, I mean, literally, I remember just so many cool opportunities like, hey, we're going to do this songwriter night, and you're just going to stand in front of a bunch of people and kind of talk about your song. Okay, sure. Like, I would have never gotten those opportunities to play in front of those people, or to just kind of, it built my confidence up over the years, which I didn't have much of young, you know what I mean? So.
And that's so funny because it's never how I would have described you.
Yeah.
Never.
Oh, no, I mean, I still struggle big time.
Should we? I mean,
you know,
everyone does.
Yeah, but that was huge in me feeling like, okay, maybe what I do has some worth, you know?
I remember, I completely hear you. I will say it was the Spruce Street location, and I think it was you guys. I think it was a Social State. I remember one of my favorite, you have those few moments in life when you are fully aware of what's happening, and you are fully aware of this is a significant moment. It was around the holidays. They were rehearsing for the reindeer monologues. They were doing they were setting up a visual exhibit like the Moth Project or something. They were doing a photo shoot for the reindeer monologues, and I remember CJ was like carrying a giant amp into the back room, and you were rehearsing in the back studio space. And I just and it was complete organized chaos. No one was upset with each other. No one was like, you know, ego or priority. Everyone was creating visual, performance, and music at the same exact time in a very relatively small space, and it just felt lovely. And I was in the balcony, and I distinctly remember that moment, and I knew this isn't going to last forever,
right?
Because nothing does,
right? Sadly,
and it was just time for all of us to have other chapters. But it means a lot to be able to talk to someone about those chapters of our lives. We had a lot of great moments at the Vintage, and overall wonderful. Running a music venue and being part of that society and culture isn't always easy. You often would help us out sometimes on sound or security when we had maybe a little more intense events. Does anything come to mind?
Yeah, I mean, I've had so many incredible experiences, and then so many experiences like running sound where it was just, you know, nothing eventful. Like I'm running the board and helping guys out. But I remember the night that I got punched in the face and my pinky broke.
So that was a hardcore show, which I think we should fairly say. We had many without issue.
Yeah, I love the hardcore scene.
Right.
I grew up on more than half of that music, you know?
So let's very quickly tell people that story. What happened that night?
Well, I'm sure if you ask like 3 different people who were there, you'll get 3 different versions of what happened. But from my viewpoint, was a friend's band was playing, and they were all good friends, really good friends of mine, and they were awesome actually. They were killing it. And they had a big, huge circle pit, and we'd given them quite a lot of room. I don't even remember if I was running sound or if I was just like hanging out or what I was doing. I
think you might have been like, I think you were kind of helping us a little bit with not even security, just kind of like
I think I was helping. I think I was helping, and I think I also played acoustic that night too, which was probably maybe not the best decision on my part. Like, yeah, I'll get up there and play these folk songs before you know,
The breakdown.
before the breakdown, man. No, but I remember specifically things getting like chaotic and us kind of like backing up, like this whole ring of people like just getting wider and wider and giving them more and more room, and people bodies bouncing back into us and us kind of shoving people back. And I was just trying to make sure that people weren't getting hurt, you know, around in my like initial area that I was in. And my friend Joe, he was a real young kid, and he just like pushed one of them back, and when he pushed the kid who had bounced into him, he turned around and pulled him, and like these other kids saw him and they all like ran at him, like to attack him or something, I don't know. So I ran in between them, and I was holding like a very large group of people back and saying, no, stop, it's okay, we're just throwing you back. And this one guy who I had talked to earlier in the night, I won't say names or anything like that, I talked to him earlier in the night, we were like, oh dude, your set was so good. He's like, no, your set was so good. He just turned around and just started punching me in the face. And in the middle of getting punched in the face and I'm holding these people, I just feel like on my pinky. And like I'm just trying to, you know, sort this all out in the moment. And then everybody pounced on me and some wonderful gentleman pulled me out. And then I just remember the whole show dispersing. So it was quite the event.
It's insane the stuff we got away with. I think it's important to. I really think it's important to remind people this was such a minority. Like this is such a small drop in the bucket.
Yeah.
We'll put a pin in that conversation for a minute.
That's why I remember it so well.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because it was the one.
The extreme always.
Yeah. It was never like that.
Let's talk a little bit about some. We kind of talked. You talked about hardcore being a lot of what you listened to.
Yeah.
What were some of your early musical influences?
I mean, the big bands that I liked. I mean, I don't know. Everybody's definition of punk rock and hardcore and post-hardcore are so different.
Genres aside.
You know, but I mean, I grew up loving, you know, like the Casualties and loving Rancid and like adoring Nirvana and Sonic Youth and early Foo Fighters, and then more in the emo genre like Jimmy Eat World, and I loved, you know, the Hives, and then weirder stuff like Radiohead, and I still kind of love all that stuff, you know. Obviously Weezer. I mean, it's a long list of bands that I love, from everything from Loretta Lynn on to, you know, the most crusty, you know, Operation Ivy and stuff. So I just love everything.
You recently went on tour with your band University Drive.
Yes.
You went on tour with the band Cold, who is a very popular band in the alternative rock scene.
Yeah.
They, please correct me if I'm wrong, they kind of emerged in the early 2000s. Stupid Girl was their song that really kind of...
That was the big one. That was the one where it was like they crossed over from being like they were a bigger band at that time, but when they put that song out, I think it kind of got crazy.
Mainstream.
That's when they had like their big heyday.
If we can, just a few minutes, because there's a lot I want to talk about.
Yeah.
How did that tour come about with your band, and what was the experience like?
Well, the way it came about is still sort of a mystery, but I think oddly enough, it was in part to just being involved in the scene and being active, because we had just put out Clear, we just put out the record, so I was posting like a ton about that on, you know, social media platforms, and primarily Instagram, which is so funny, and I followed Nick Coyle, and Nick Coyle followed me, and while Scooter, the lead singer of Cold, they were looking for bands like to take on, I think through us being like mutual friends on there, he was getting our feed, Scooter, and he just happened to like click on a few videos and then listen to one of the songs, then listen to the whole album, then he got obsessed with the album.
Isn't that amazing?
It's like, I don't even understand it. I still don't even understand it. So he ended up, you know, asking if we wanted to tour, to which we all said, yes, absolutely. And I don't know, it was like one of the best, you know, months of my life. But, I mean, I think we did 22 dates, and they were the best times of my life. I mean, we went everywhere. We went, you know, through, we were in New York City, and then we were in the Midwest, Indiana, and we flew for the last 2 dates to the Viper Room in California and played in Los Angeles.
What was that like?
It was unbelievable. The first day we got there, we showed up to the venue, and Angelo, our guitar player, he ended up halfway like through the first 3 or 4 gigs, they ended up asking him if he would drum tech for Cold because they needed somebody to like take care of drum stuff. So he said, yeah. So he kind of, through the tour, he had insider information. You know, he knew what was going on. And we get up to the Viper Room and he texts us. He goes, hey, just letting you guys know, don't go into the Viper Room yet because Perry Farrell from Jane's Addiction and Taylor Hawkins from the Foo Fighters are both having an interview inside.
So 14-year-old Ed inside.
So 32-year-old Ed at the time is like crapping his pants, you know?
Amazing.
Like I was losing my mind. And we did. We got to meet him for a second. That was within the first like 5 hours of us walking around that place, you know? It was nuts.
That's amazing.
It was.
That's
It
amazing.
was. I mean, I got to tell him he was my hero, so
that's so
cool. That was crazy, you know? So grateful.
Was there any? I was just stupidly going to ask you. Was there a moment on the tour particularly that stood out? But you just said what the moment was.
Well, I mean, there was lots of moments though. I remember there was when we played the Machine Shop in Detroit. That was like I don't mean to get all like cheesy and silly, but through that whole tour, I felt super emotional because with the making of Clear, like before that, I went through like just this awful loss with my mom and went through like just terrible family stuff. And I just in my head was making this record for therapy. And then this happened, and I almost felt like a spiritual thing that happened, you know,
And to clarify, we are speaking about this.
That one, yeah, that's clear, yeah. And through the whole tour, I was just feeling emotional every night because I was like, how did I go from having like truly the worst time I can ever remember to like the highest high I've ever felt in my life?
What do you think the answer to that is?
I don't know, and I'm still kind of figuring it out, but I like to believe that maybe it's my mom's essence or spirit or something, you know? But every night I was very, like, just felt emotional. But when we played the Machine Shop, that was the first night where we played to, like, an enormous crowd. Like, there was definitely 1,000 people in that room. And I'd never seen or felt anything like that. And they were so kind. Like, I know we were just the opening band. Like, these shows aren't about us. We're a part of them, and but our goal is to make sure that Cold has a great night. That's every opening band's job, you know? And the crowd was just so kind, and so they just really gave us so much that they didn't have to.
Have you noticed an uptick in, like, your band's social media following and
big time,
views?
Big time. And I mean, even just through, like, the Cold group fan, like Cold group, whatever, fan group, like I stay in contact with a lot of the people that we met on the road there, and so cool. It's nuts. I received a lot of messages. But at the Machine Shop and at the Baltimore Soundstage, those two places, I literally, like, after the gig, just had to go outside and, like, weep, just because it was so unbelievable.
Right on, though.
Because I never thought in a million years that I would ever get to experience anything like that. And I still, even now, go like, well, that's probably never going to happen again.
I've had several people that we've talked with in this series, and full bias aside, they're all people I've either work with, or consider good friends. I will say that within your genre, I have never met someone who works so hard. And that doesn't mean there's not a ton of people that work really hard, but you work so hard, and you're so talented. And I'm going to make you blush on camera.
Thank you.
But you just admitted to weeping, so.
Well, I did. I totally.
And that's beautiful, though. I think it's amazing that you admitted to that.
Yeah.
Though. And I think it's important, and I'm gonna play this card.
Yeah.
I think it's really important, men in our society, and I think emotions are not a bad thing.
No.
And that's beautiful and well earned. And that's so lovely to hear.
Yeah.
That's really beautiful.
It was unbelievable.
22 city tour.
Yeah.
You come back to Northeast PA. And I know you personally might be going out on a tour this spring.
Possibly.
To be determined. We're not sure yet.
Yeah.
And we'll find out more.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on our music and scene here in Northeast PA, and did going on that tour give you any sort of new perspective?
I don't know. I mean, that tour gave me perspective as far as into that world, because it's a different thing. It's not, I mean, the people all involved, there's still like everybody on that tour came from like DIY background, you know, so everyone understands and respects it, but it's a whole different animal, you know, like that's like, there's money behind everything, and it's, you know, it's a big thing. But as far as like our scene and the state of it, first off, I've been guilty of not being as involved in the scene for a little while because I've been really focusing on trying to work on new music.
I'm completely disconnected. I have no idea what's happening.
Yeah, no, and I feel bad because there was a gig last night that was going on that I really wanted to go to, but I work a lot, and I want to make sure that the time I have I can dedicate to the art form to some degree. Right. So when I can't make gigs, I really do feel...
And you know, your life.
Right, and life, exactly. But I do, I mean, I respect what Carl Hall is doing in Wilkes-Barre. I think that AJ is doing a lot of great stuff there. I respect what Stage West is doing. I respect any place that's still willing to have a place to let musicians scream his heart out.
Do you play the EC Music Conference usually?
I do. We'll do like the opening ceremony.
Gotcha.
Like I'll do that usually.
Gotcha.
So
cool.
If they ask us to.
Right,
you know?
of course.
Yeah.
There are, I want to be very clear, there are all-age venues in Northeast PA, and if anyone who's watching this has a personal favorite, please comment below, tag them. You know, I remember back in the vintage days when people when someone would make the statement of like, we don't have anything like Test Pattern anymore, which Test Pattern was amazing. Yeah. It was just frustrating to not even be acknowledged.
Right.
So I don't want to do that. What I will say is that in downtown Scranton, there hasn't quite been something like Test Pattern, the vintage. Right. You know, in 6 years.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Why do you think that is?
Well, I mean, it's a different time economically, you know, for sure. And I mean, most people don't have a lot of money, you know. I think that's a big part of it. But I mean, I know for a fact that like I do have friends I talk to who, I was just in a conversation last night with a friend talking about, you know, like certain people having ideas about opening places, and you know, I think there's bubblings, and I think it will happen again. You know, I think it always will happen. And if it doesn't happen, kids are going to find a space to do it.
Absolutely.
Because you can't, I mean, literally, like I was talking about playing on a stage in my basement.
It'll happen.
Like, it doesn't matter. Like, at that age, it's such an important thing. It's such a visceral and real thing.
I think I also have to give credit to the Space at Olive, because I think that has a ton of potential.
Oh, I love it.
And I think they're doing some really cool stuff there. I wonder, I will only say this, and this is not an insult, I think it's fabulous, but when we opened the Vintage Downtown in 2009, so over 10 years ago now, I can just say downtown felt so, and people are going to laugh at this, it felt so much grittier. Yeah. Downtown, there are shops and businesses, and by the way, they're all phenomenal. Yeah. But there are so many more coffee shops, and there's a cafe/bike store, and there's a speakeasy, and that never existed. Yeah. There were spaces, there were cool venues and bars and restaurants, but downtown, I just feel, has become so much more vibrant. But with that, like you said, the economics, rent goes up. Yeah, and also, I didn't mean to cut you off. Also, like I mean, you ran a venue, man. Like the amount of money that goes into that is so much. And I mean, you know, with coffee shops or little shops, like they have a way to kind of keep making money. But if you're not having a show every day or something, it's a lot. So I understand why there aren't, you know, 10 venues in the area, but I know for a fact like there will be one or two. It's just a matter of time. I think it's cyclical. And I think that we as a community, if you agree or disagree, we also I think need to support the shows that aren't necessarily at traditional like round the clock venues. Yeah. If your friend's doing a show in an abandoned warehouse once a month, well then that's a venue. Yeah. In this moment in time, I think it's just community and culture. Sure. Before we wrap up our conversation today, I've been asking all of our guests some silly rapid-fire questions. Okay. So if I ask you something and you don't have an answer to, just say pass. Okay. When you wake up in the morning, coffee or tea? Coffee. What is your favorite color? Blue. If we were to open your phone or music device, laptop right now, what would likely be the last song you listen to? Surf's Up by the Beach Boys. Do you listen to the Beach Boys often? Yes. What are you binging TV-wise right now? Pass. Are you reading anything of interest?
Nope.
That's okay. What are your plans for next week?
Keep working on songs every day. Working on songs.
If you could magically create a meal in front of you right now, what would it be?
That's a good question. Probably my grandmother's spaghetti, manicotti, just the sauce they used to make.
That's so sweet.
It's the truth too. It's so good.
I'll ask you one more question that, believe it or not, is the most divisive one I ask. What is your favorite coffee shop in Greater Northeast PA?
Oh, that's rough,
I
man.
know.
That's a rough one.
I'm going to say this right now. You are, whatever you say, you are not insulting the others.
Right.
It just happens to be, in this moment in time, your personal favorite.
Honestly, at the moment, it's a Dezo.
That is like the going. I swear, we are not prompting people to do this.
Yeah.
Dezo gives us no money, although you're welcome to.
I love all of them. I mean, Moe's, Northern Lights, they're great. They're great. I think a Dezo is just
the vibe, right?
It's vibe, but it's like quaint. It's quiet and I don't know. I don't feel like. I just feel very calm when I'm there. You know, I just feel calm, and that's wherever I feel calm, I tend to gravitate towards. So
I respect that.
Yes.
My real last question.
Yes.
If an aspiring young musician, he, she, they, are watching this right now and they want to start doing shows or go on tours eventually or whatever, what's a piece of practical advice you might give them?
It's going to sound impractical, but it's just to play and to say yes. Those are the two things I would do. Practice as much as possible. Hone your craft, whether it's just being a musician or if it's a visual artist, whatever it is, you spoken word,
just do it.
Really, really work and hone what you do and what you want to express, and then say yes to every opportunity, even if they're silly, because eventually they won't be silly, and eventually you'll be able to say no to the silly things, and you'll be doing cool things.
Ed Cuozzo. You can learn more about Ed and listen to his band University Drive's music on Apple and Spotify. You can also find University Drive on Instagram and Facebook. Again, that's University Drive on Apple, Spotify, Facebook, and Instagram. Thanks, Ed.
Thanks, man. Yeah.
Well, that's it.
Okay.